Hello, this is Visualise the Chess Noob, learning and having fun with chess. The knights, with their L-shaped moves, ability to jump over pieces and potentially occupy every square, are perhaps the piece that is most difficult to visualise a few moves ahead. At least for ordinary human minds at the beginner intermediate level. This makes the knight the best piece to attempt traps for the opponent, as knight forks can be difficult to visualize and anticipate. In the game I played today, my opponent and I were mostly equal in the middle game. I entered towards the endgame with queen and knight, and they with queen and bishop. As we'll see in the game, the combination of knight and queen was very powerful. Please enjoy! Let's start with the review, chess.com's algorithm. And as we can see, no, probably not a terribly accurate game, about 73%, my opponent about 66. We both had a mix of good moves and also a pretty good mix of inaccuracies, mistakes, and some blunders as well. And my opponent, who played with the white pieces, was probably more familiar with the opening, and certainly I made a few blunders in the opening. But we equalized in the middle game, and I managed to come out ahead towards the end of the middle game and then the end game. Let's now have a look at the analysis. All right, so my opponent led with e4, to which I responded with e5, and they played the bishop's opening, so immediate bishop c4. Against the bishop's opening, I usually play knight f6, which is apparently also known as the Berlin defense. The sort of Berlin defense, there's a Berlin defense in the Ruy Lopez as well. I seem to like playing the Berlin defense across multiple openings. They play d3, I now play d5. So given that captures, well, they can't really capture back, can they? Captures, I capture with knight, and now they've developed knight f3, obviously with an attack on the e5 pawn. I decided to play bishop at g4, pinning the knight, yeah, I think it might have been better straight up just to develop the other knight as defense. And yeah, Stockfish reckons that that's better as well, ceding quite a lot of advantage actually to the opponent, almost +2. Opponent plays knight bd2, almost back to equality, of which I almost immediately lose that equality by playing bishop c5. So apparently pushing the f-pawn, which is something I wouldn't normally do, I suppose, but it's good to know. Queen e2, I short castles, they short castles, and at the moment we're sort of pretty much back to equality. I play rook e8, which was potentially a pretty big mistake. They play queen e4, which was a good move, obviously with an attack, and also putting pressure there as well. So yeah, and also pressure here. So pretty good move. I wasn't sure what was the best move, so I thought, you know, the knight's no longer pinned. That's not looking good. So let's just whack. They took back with the queen, which apparently would have been better for them to take with the knight, because that would have kept pressure on those two pieces. I now play c6, extra defender, and also means that if I have to move the knight out of the way, the queen doesn't have that attack. Knight e4, which was a good move. I played knight d7, bishop g5 with an attack on the queen. Here I thought that was an okay move. Knight 5 f6, but apparently it wasn't. Apparently it wasn't. Now, lucky for me, +5. Apparently, but lucky for me, the opponent didn't see the best response either, which was just straight up capture. Played a3, and we're sort of back to the position we were in before. Now I played bishop e7, which was apparently the move I should have played first. Good to know. Rook ad1. Here I thought that I had an attack here. Again, I didn't realize it was quite so bad. But they captured back with the bishop, which was apparently the wrong move. I capture back and we're back to equality. So this is a sort of unusual opening for me, and I suspect maybe the opponent doesn't play this opening all that frequently either. So we're sort of making mistakes. There are nuances to this opening that could have allowed substantial advantages both ways, I suppose. And now capture back the knight with pawn, and basically equal. So play the other knight now. So pushing forward, blocking that, with queen and bishop. So that's not good. Pop the knight there. Knight f6. Rook d3. I thought we could probably trade rooks and it would still be okay for me, and that was correct. I now play b5. Attack the bishop. They push the bishop all the way back to a2. And potentially I thought there was an attack here as long as I put in, an extra attacker here. So this blocks the bishops, along that diagonal. So that potentially is good, though obviously I can't just push that. That's not going to work. So played a6, potentially thinking that they'll capture and I'll capture back. Yep, and that's what happened. So basically still equal, so very good. Opponent plays b3, again, blocking that diagonal for the bishop, and this becomes a problem for the opponent towards the endgame. So this bishop is basically boxed in by their own pawns, and so isn't really active in the game. I decided to play c8, rook c8 here, thinking that this would allow a push, so captures, and still potentially looking good. So obviously then bishop cannot capture. But anyway, that was my thinking. Here, I have to admit, I wasn't entirely sure what was the best move. So I suppose I played h6, and I suppose straight up missed out that pawn was just hanging. Now the opponent did see that the pawn was now hanging and played f3. I didn't see that this was a blunder. Apparently it was really bad. And the reason for that actually is that queen can go to a7. And so now there is a potential discovered check with moving the pawn forward. So I didn't see that. That's okay. But I was thinking that maybe I could pop my knight onto f4 and potentially some good potential positions there. Opponent plays rook d7, basically forcing my queen out of the way. I decide to play queen g5. So apparently that was better. Okay, wasn't sure why. What I saw was there was a potential check here, not to mention just the possibility if the knight goes here, obviously that's a potential mate in one. So that I thought must be good. Opponent thought for quite a while here, so almost 5 minutes, and played queen f1, so defending against that possible mate threat. And in fact, according to Stockfish, that wasn't necessary. So g3 potentially stops that because I can't get the knight there, and basically I have nothing. But by doing so, this was one of the errors. So blunder according to Stockfish, but the reason for that is these pawns are now all on like squares. Bishop is blocked in here, can't easily push that forward without losing material, and blocked in. So all blocked in. So that bishop is not really part of the game. And with the queen in this position, yes, there's an attack there, but also not very active. And one of the things that I saw was that I could now play rook d8. So Stockfish wants straight up to push. I wasn't quite so confident with that strategy with queen and knight. I thought that what I could do, that this would probably push my opponent to capture. I would be able to capture back with queen, and now the queen controls the only open file on the board, which is the d file. And I still have 6 pawns, they still have 6 pawns. So with so many pawns on the light squares, it's not really good for the queen and bishop. So I thought I had an advantage. Captures. So here we go. So -3. Opponent now plays queen e2. So to me, not obviously bad, but you can see that massive decline. So -8.6, completely winning. What I did see was that now I could chase with the knight, and this is not looking good for the opponent. So there, now again, I can push the knight forward again. And again, another relative inaccuracy, almost -10 now. Here, I did see that I had a check. Now, I think the computer doesn't like that move as much because what it wanted, I think, is potentially, and this is a sequence which I didn't see, was that there's a check here, and the most logical thing for the opponent to do is probably to move that, move the king to that square. Then I now have this move, and of course that is going to be checkmate. So queen is going to be forced to, yeah, probably this square to help defend, which means now I just straight up win that bishop. So I think that's the sequence that was considered best for the best by the computer. Now let's go back to the actual game. Here they moved there. I didn't see that sequence before, so I put the knight on d3. Less accurate, but still, you know, not -10, but still -7. It's still very good for me. Opponent plays queen d2, and now I have got that check. Opponent pushes king to f1, and now I saw this line. So queen to a1 with check. King, the best move is here, but now I've got this fork, absolute fork with check. King forced to move, and because the queen and the king are on the same rank, I now can basically pin the queen. They're forced to capture my queen. I capture back. Now, you know, equal pawns, but I'm a full knight up. So this is completely winning for me. And, you know, I think the opponent sort of tried to play valiantly for a little bit longer, but, you know, the knight is just so tricky. There's another absolute fork. So that's another pawn gone. They move there. Knight retreats, defended. And, you know, with these pieces, this is basically a force field. So basically the king cannot intrude into that territory. Opponent tries to push a pawn, again, missing another absolute fork, potentially. Oops, not an absolute fork there, sorry. Yep, just straight up hanging, sorry, that piece. That wouldn't have been very intelligent, would it? I would have lost a knight. Yep, and at this point, the opponent opted to resign. So my pawn's on the 5th rank. Basically, as I said, it's like a force field. King can't come down. I now still have 6 pawns against their 4 pawns. I'm completely winning. Good game for the opponent. GG. The queen subsumes the possible movements of all other pieces except one, the knight. This means that the queen and knight together allows for tactics that even 2 queens cannot achieve. In this game, my opponent's queen and bishop were relatively boxed in, as we each still had 6 pawns each in play. This gave a substantial advantage to my knight, as he could jump over lines of pawns. Once my queen took control of the only open file in the center of the board, the advantage became overwhelming. I hope you enjoyed this video, and thanks for watching.